Most products spend billions of dollars trying to convince people to buy them. The iPhone has the opposite problem. Millions of people already want one before Apple even announces it. Every year, people line up for a device they already know almost exactly what it will look like. They know the changes will be small. They know their current phone still works. And yet, somehow, they still feel the urge to upgrade. Which raises a strange question. If smartphones have become so similar, why does the iPhone still hold so much power over people? The obvious answer would be technology, better cameras, faster processors, new features. But that explanation starts to fall apart the moment you look at the rest of the smartphone industry. For years, Android manufacturers have offered larger batteries, faster charging, more customization, and features Apple often adopts much later. Yet despite all of that competition, the iPhone remains one of the most desired products on the planet. And that's because Apple isn't really selling a phone anymore. It is selling something much more valuable. The iPhone stopped being a piece of technology a long time ago and became a cultural symbol. Today, when people look at an iPhone, they aren't just seeing a device, they're seeing an idea, an image, a lifestyle. And understanding why reveals something surprisingly powerful about human psychology and modern consumer culture. What's interesting is that most products become less special as they become more common. The more people own something, the less exclusive it feels. Yet the iPhone somehow achieved the opposite. As millions of people adopted it, its influence only grew stronger. Instead of losing status through popularity, it gained status through visibility. Everywhere people looked, they saw iPhones. The device became so deeply integrated into daily life that it stopped feeling like a piece of technology and started feeling like part of modern culture itself. When the first iPhone launched in 2007, it genuinely changed the technology industry. Smartphones already existed, but they felt complicated, technical, and often intimidating. Apple approached the problem differently. Instead of focusing entirely on features, it focused on experience. Steve Jobs didn't stand on stage talking endlessly about specifications. Apple understood something most technology companies didn't. People rarely buy products because of what they do. They buy products because of what those products make them feel. While competitors were fighting specification wars, Apple was quietly building a brand that stood for creativity, modernity, simplicity, and premium quality. Every advertisement reinforced that image. Every product launch reinforced that image. Every Apple store reinforced that image. Over time, the company created something extremely difficult to copy: trust. Not just trust in the product, but trust in the experience. Consumers felt confident that when they bought an Apple product, everything would work together. The software, the hardware, the design, the ecosystem. That consistency became part of the brand's appeal. People weren't simply purchasing technology anymore, they were buying certainty. And in a world filled with endless choices and complexity, certainty is incredibly valuable. Apple also benefited from something very few companies achieve: consistency over time. Trends changed, technology evolved, entire industries transformed. Yet Apple's image remained remarkably stable. Whether someone bought an iPhone in 2010 or 2025, the core message stayed the same: simplicity, quality, premium design, reliability. Consumers knew what Apple represented, and familiarity creates trust. Most people don't have time to research every purchase in extreme detail. Instead, they rely on mental shortcuts. A trusted brand becomes one of those shortcuts. But technology alone doesn't explain the iPhone's influence. Status does. Throughout history, humans have always used objects to communicate social information. Cars, clothing, jewelry, houses, watches. These things serve practical purposes, but they also signal identity. They tell the world something about who we are, or at least who we want people to believe we are. The iPhone became one of the most recognizable status symbols of the modern era because it's visible every single day. A luxury watch might stay hidden under a sleeve. A sports car stays parked outside. But smartphones are constantly in our hands. We pull them out in restaurants, meetings, classrooms, airports, cafes, and social gatherings. People see them hundreds of times a week. That visibility transformed the iPhone into a social signal. Owning one became associated with success, professionalism, and cultural relevance. Even people who don't consciously care about status still absorb these associations. After all, when celebrities, athletes, actors, and executives all use the same product, the message becomes difficult to ignore. The product slowly absorbs the prestige of the people associated with it, and eventually, people begin wanting the symbol as much as the device itself. One of the most fascinating examples of this influence is something incredibly simple: the blue bubble. Technologically speaking, it shouldn't matter. A text message is a text message. Yet in many places, especially among younger generations, the distinction between blue and green bubbles became a cultural phenomenon. People joked about it. Memes spread across social media. Entire conversations emerged around it. Somehow, a messaging feature transformed into a social identity marker. That's because technology is never just technology. It becomes embedded inside social behavior. Once enough people adopt a platform, being outside that platform begins to feel different. Humans naturally want belonging. We want to be part of the group, and Apple's ecosystem became one giant social network disguised as technology. Features like iMessage, FaceTime, AirDrop, and shared services created invisible incentives that encouraged people to stay. The more friends who used Apple products, the more valuable Apple products became. Eventually, owning an iPhone wasn't just about the phone itself. It was about participating in a larger social ecosystem. And once social belonging becomes involved, consumer decisions stop being purely rational. Then there's the influence of celebrities and popular culture. For decades, celebrities have helped shape consumer behavior. People imitate individuals they admire. It's a psychological shortcut. If successful people use something, our brains often assume that product must have value. The difference is that social media amplified this process to an unprecedented level. Today, millions of people spend hours every week watching influencers, athletes, musicians, creators, and celebrities share their lives online. And throughout those lives, iPhones appear constantly. They appear in mirror selfies, behind-the-scenes videos, podcasts, interviews, travel content, and social media posts. This creates what psychologists call repeated exposure. The more often people see something, the more familiar and desirable it becomes. Over time, the iPhone became deeply integrated into internet culture itself. Content creation, photography, social media, video production, all became linked to Apple's brand image. Even when competitors offered similar camera quality, Apple often maintained the perception advantage because people had already associated iPhones with creativity and content creation. The device became part of the culture surrounding modern internet life. Social media strengthened Apple's position in another important way. It transformed the smartphone camera into one of the most important features on the device. People now document their lives constantly. The phone became the tool people use to present themselves to the world. And because of that, the device became more personal than almost any technology product before it. Another major reason people want iPhones is Apple's ecosystem. It might be one of the smartest business strategies ever created. Products like AirPods, Apple Watch, MacBook, and iPad are useful on their own. Together, they create an ecosystem where everything works seamlessly. AirPods connect instantly, photos sync automatically, messages appear across devices. Every Apple product makes every other Apple product more valuable. And convenience is incredibly addictive. Once people enter the ecosystem, leaving becomes difficult. Not impossible, but uncomfortable. They build habits around it, and switching suddenly feels like learning a new language. This is what many people call the ecosystem trap. Over time, customers become less attached to individual devices and more attached to the overall experience. People often think they're loyal to the iPhone. In reality, many are loyal to the convenience surrounding it. Apple also understood something many companies missed. Most people value simplicity over customization. The average consumer doesn't want endless options. They simply want things to work. Cleaner interfaces, fewer choices, and more consistency made Apple feel reliable, and reliability creates trust. But perhaps the biggest reason behind the iPhone's success isn't technology at all, it's psychology. Humans naturally associate expensive products with quality, exclusivity, and status. Economists call this the Veblen effect, where higher prices increase perceived value. Apple has used premium pricing not only to generate profit, but to strengthen its brand. It sits in a unique position between technology and luxury, premium enough to feel exclusive, yet accessible enough to remain mainstream. Then there's Apple's marketing. Every launch event feels less like a product announcement and more like a global event. Instead of selling specifications, Apple sells a vision of the future. That's why millions watch Apple events every year, even after months of leaks and rumors. Apple doesn't just sell products, it sells anticipation. And anticipation is often more powerful than ownership itself. Perhaps Apple's greatest achievement wasn't building a phone, it was building a habit. For millions of people, the iPhone has become part of everyday life. Messages, photos, work, entertainment, and communication all happen through one device. Most brands are lucky if customers think about them once a week. Apple sits in front of its users for hours every day. Every notification, unlock, and interaction strengthens that relationship. Over time, familiarity becomes preference, and preference becomes loyalty. By becoming part of daily life, Apple no longer has to constantly prove its value. The habit does that automatically. Which brings us to the hidden truth behind the iPhone phenomenon. Most people don't actually need the newest iPhone. Their current phone already does almost everything they need. Yet millions still feel the urge to upgrade, not because of necessity, but because of culture. The iPhone stopped being just a smartphone. It became connected to status, belonging, identity, convenience, and aspiration. Apple isn't simply competing against other smartphones. It's competing for people's perception. Long before someone walks into a store, Apple has already shaped what they believe a premium phone should feel like. In the end, Apple's greatest innovation wasn't its camera or processor. It was turning a piece of technology into a cultural symbol. Because people don't just buy products, they buy stories about who they are. And for millions around the world, the iPhone became one of the most successful stories ever sold.